All right.
Thank you, sir.
Whenever you're ready, let's see.
All set?
Yes, we are.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Education's Facility Committee meeting. We should say it's recorded earlier before a live studio audience. We were having connectivity issues, so we're recording it now so we can put it on YouTube later. We are going to call the meeting to order at 3:52 p.m. Thanks to everyone for joining us. I've been told that we have no citizens' comments, correct?
Correct.
Okay, then in that case, let's go ahead and approve the minutes from our last meeting. Did anyone have any concerns with the or questions about the last meeting? No? And these minutes are all found on the Proviso Township High Schools District 209 website, correct?
Yes.
If you go in the board section and you look under meetings, you can find the agendas and...
Sorry, I was just going to say yes.
You could, if you look on the website, you can find the agendas and the minutes for all of our meetings. So if anybody wants to go back and take a look at what we've been discussing, you're more than welcome to. With the minutes approved, let's go ahead to our facility master plan updates. We're hearing from Perkins and Will first.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll share my screen now, and we can go through, we have a brief update on the facility master plan projects. From our side, we will be talking about the project schedule for sequence 3, where we currently sit on the overall design project, as well as an update for some requested information from the last board meeting about the East Stadium grandstands, and an update on an item that's been outstanding. We've been discussing the West Tunnel to the auto shop, and then we'll hand it over to Gilbane. So looking at the overall project schedule, we sit here in a waning month or so of summer break. We'll get an update on the construction progress to date, but we've been steadily working through the design for sequence 3. The estimates are working. Currently, we're expecting to get estimates for review from ourselves and our engineers later this week, and we'll be presenting those to this group probably in the August meetings, depending on the timing of everything and how that works out. And then we'll again bring this in earnest to the rest of our design efforts in September in order to go out to bid in November for a December bid opening. Any questions on the schedule? And the clarification on the flood control. This is the flood control for design work. There's still been some materials acquisition issues. It's our understanding that have been holding on a few of the items to be completed for that. A lot of the effort has been ongoing throughout the summer since that work was sent out as well. No questions. I'll hand it over to Carl for the East Grandstand.
Thanks, Mike. One of the requests that the board made at the last meeting was just for some sample images that are indicative of the type of grandstand, the level of quality that Proviso East will be getting here that's currently under construction. So we reached out to Southern Bleacher and asked them for some similar installations. And so we have some similar high school installations, two in Wisconsin and Michigan, that are very comparable to the system that is being installed at East. You can see a lot of the color branding. Proviso East, obviously it'll be blue. And so, in terms of general layout and general size, the one in the upper right is a little bit larger than the Proviso East installation. The one in the lower right is a little bit smaller. But as far as the press box, that's pretty much identical to what East will be getting, where there's a 3-compartment or 3-room press box with home and visitors on opposite sides, and then kind of an event operations, I guess we'll call it, in the center there for controlling scoreboards and things like that. So If there's any questions about what the grandstands may look like at East, I'd be happy to respond to them.
A few other notes on the design here. The one of the design features that is incorporated are these closed vertical risers, and as Carl was saying, these are the branded elements. So these are colored closed risers. That the closed risers really help, especially when you're getting wind out of the west or out of any direction for that matter, keeping your legs as unexposed as possible, also keeping any debris that might be falling through there. And as you can see, especially in the Michigan example here, it really sets up a good brand, as Carl was saying, for the whole stadium. And this press box, there's an occupiable, it's not evident right here, but the roof level of the press box is occupiable so that you can be doing filming or any other spotters out on there for track and field or for other field events might be happening also.
Yeah, the Proviso's grandstand will be dressed in blue. There will be no doubt whose grandstand it is once it's installed. So it should be a pretty strong identifier for the school.
That's awesome. Quick question, you guys. What can you tell me about accessibility for these bleachers? Are there any kind of ramps, or is there a special section for wheelchair accessibility?
Yeah, it'll be in full compliance with the Illinois Accessibility Code. There'll be a ramp on the north and the south side. And then you can kind of see it in this left image. Mike, maybe if you can use your mouse. There you go, yeah. There are accessible seating sections where a wheelchair can be comfortably sat to watch the game, and then companion seats adjacent to those accessible spectator spots.
And there's multiple of these accessible seating locations along this path here, so
right.
You have different viewing opportunities for that, and that's both the visitors and the home seating.
Great, that was my next question. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, you mentioned that the roof will be accessible. Will there be a ladder and some guardrails up there?
Yeah, there'll be. I'm sorry. There'll be all the way around the top of the press box, and there's a ladder that comes to a roof scuttle that you can open up and get access to the roof from.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions on the grandstand? Great. Mike, if you want to.
Okay. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about the tunnel at the West Auto Shop that connects it to E-Building. So I'm going to bring a little bit of history to your attention. So this issue was first brought to Roosevelt attention in fall of 2019. Sorry, there's a little bit of feedback. Carl? You can mute. Okay. So this was first brought to Roosevelt attention fall 2019, and the condition or potential conditions were first discovered when we noticed that there was some buckling in the terrazzo outside the advanced manufacturing lab in the corridor right above the tunnel that we're talking about. So in January 2020, we put together 3 options and presented them to the district to remedy the flooding and the structural concerns in this area. The selected option at that time was to demolish the tunnel entirely, infill building foundations, and reconnect the utilities. In December of that year, Gilbane solicited and received bids for this work. The total for this work came to about $500,000. And at that time, the team suggested as we approach some more budget-conscious alternatives. And I just see Amanda's comment about feedback. I thought it was just myself. Is there anything you're trying to do about the feedback?
Yeah, 1 second. We're going to get her in here and see if she can tone the volume down a bit. Hey, we need you in the
That's a good idea, Michael.
He said to mute the PMSA mic.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Sorry, Jessica.
That's fine, that's perfectly fine.
Should be working.
How about now? Is there any feedback?
Well, the mic's been muted. Jessica, why don't you try that?
Sorry, thanks, I didn't notice. Oh, that's much better. That's much better on my end. I hope it's better on.
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Just difficult talking while hearing yourself as well. Okay, so December 2020, bids came back, and at that time it was suggested that we try to pursue some more budget conscious alternatives. So this past spring, the structural engineer from C.E. Anderson went out and performed an analysis of the existing tunnel. And at that time, there were recommended actions that were given to Gilbane for cost estimating. And then where we are right now, July 2021, cost estimates for this work have been provided to the district, and Gilbane is reviewing the possibility of performing this work during this coming fall. So on this slide, you can see a selection of some issues that were discovered in the tunnel and both at the terrazzo above. So these first two images show some of the buckling that was identified just as you walk around on the corridor, and that gave us an indication that there might be some issues below. So when our structural engineer looked at this, there were a number of issues, but some of the more pressing issues were the deflected slab and the horizontal crack, as well as the corroded metal deck in the lower right-hand corner. So there's broken rebar, as well as cracks and spalls in the piers as well.
Diving a little deeper into these, if I could, Jessica, expanding on some of the items that you said here. So the design documents that we have for the tunnel here are not fully matching the conditions that are observed in the field also. So there's some concern that either the depth of the concrete may not be as was originally designed, or there may be some differences between the concrete slab above it as well as the tunnel. These are not the slab for the sidewalk and the tunnel are not supposed to be the same slab. We hope they are not. They're acting independently of each other. But the cracking that you see here, as well as the lack of deck, really is some significant deterioration of the existing conditions, and also indicates presence of water that has been coming into the space. The void above the pier here, as was noted, this pier serves no current structural purpose. There was a potential for expanding this vertically to build something else in the future. But I don't know if that's really going to be functional at this point. There's nothing that has been built above this, so that's a way that a significant amount of water is getting into there. And as Jessica was indicating, the buckling, the terrazzo, was sort of our first indicator about what may be happening. And what we see there is that the moisture that's been getting into the tunnels underneath the terrazzo area really is seeping up into the space above it. And that causes these zinc strips to start to expand, and they start to push the edges of the terrazzo up at all the joints, and they also start to expand and pop themselves out of those joints. So that really gave us the first indicator overall that there was some moisture issue here, and we were trying to mitigate that as much as possible to avoid any damage to the renovated areas that house the advanced manufacturing space, as well as the machinery in there. So we don't want to have a whole lot of water sitting underneath those that can permeate up through those areas and potentially damage that sensitive equipment in that space. So, this is a much more extensive issue that has been identified there for the slab there. I don't know if are you going to be going into the original recommendations as well, Jessica?
Not the original recommendations, just the current recommendations, but you can touch on the original ones.
Well, the original recommendation really was we went through I think 3 or 4 different options about how to deal with the water infiltration in this area. Either by, damming it off in the least expensive option and finding some way to mitigate the water in a temporary manner. Or ultimately what was selected at the time was to take the cap off, backfill it, and essentially abandon the vertical walls in place, so that this would be no longer an issue in the long term. Every underground wall is going to leak water. It's just a matter of when and where and how much. So this is not atypical for an underground condition. The solution was to take that out of play so that any utility connectors here would be buried in utilities at that point, and then we'd have a smaller area that could potentially be a breach for water at a later date. And then the further options have been investigated to this date. If you want to go on with that, Jessica.
Sure. Okay. So at this point in time, there are 2 more budget-conscious recommendations. The first is really only it's a temporary solution. It's to provide temporary shoring of the tunnel top slab, and this would allow vehicles to drive over this area. I believe that vehicles in this area have been suspended, but this would be a temporary solution so that they could at least drive on there again. A more permanent solution, however, would be to replace the top structural slab and provide additional waterproofing. And again, it would reduce the water infiltration. Like Mike said, the only true way to eliminate mite infiltration is to remove the problem completely, but this should reduce the infiltration. The estimate for this work per Gilbane is about $200,000, which is about $300,000 less expensive than the original solution, which was to infill the tunnel. Now, there are also some additional testing procedures that can be performed to truly understand what the issue is. As Mike said, we do have the drawings, but the construction didn't completely follow the original construction drawings. So the only true way to see what's happening is to really get in there and do the work. And the next best option is to perform some tests. One of the tests that can be performed is to core the top slab. This would help to determine the construction type. And our structural engineer has estimated about 3 or 5 cores. And then another test that is recommended is to do some potholing. And this would help to determine the waterproofing needs and to see about existing drain tiles in the area, and also help to see what the lateral earth pressure is. And again, 3 or 5 holes are estimated.
So the coring in this case would be, about a 3-inch diameter hole that would be drilled into the top in several different locations to try to verify the makeup and the condition of the slab in those areas, and they could be backfilled after they were done. And the potholing is just excavating at several locations along both sides of the tunnel to, as Jessica says, to confirm what waterproofing was done. And typically what we would want to see is waterproofing that wraps over the top and the sides and ties directly into a drain tile that runs the entire length of the footing in this case. And we can see what has been done or has not been done for that, so we can determine what remedial actions could be taken to the foundation walls for that.
Are there any?
I'll just clarify again, the temporary shoring, our recommendation is that should be done if you're going to be using this as a drive aisle in any case. But the only way to provide a solution for this is either replacing the top slab or infilling it, as we previously said. The temporary shoring solution is not a long-term solution for you, because we see some significant structural issues on here that should be addressed in the short term.
Right. So just my suggestion when all of this is presented to the larger board meeting in August is to kind of go back and remind everyone of all the times you've mentioned the possibility of having to infill that tunnel, because I know this has come up for, I want to say, a couple of years now. So this should not be a surprise to anyone, and I know that was what we were thinking originally would have to be done. You know, $200,000 is a lot to think about and to spend, but certainly less expensive than what we had thought the original solution would be. So if you just want to, I would just recommend going back and reminding the dates and years that, you know, this has been presented to us as an issue.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Michelle, is there any way?
Any other questions regarding the tunnel?
Yeah, I have a few questions, Jessica.
Okay, all right, well, thank you very much.
Great, we'll hand it over to Gilbane and they can provide an update on construction. Thank you.
They can't hear me because of that.
Focus with the microphone. The microphone.
All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Hold on.
I will share my screen.
Hey, Michelle. Whoa.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, I had a question
Go ahead.
for that tunnel. Is there any way we can get pricing related to the shoring?
LT, it's really hard to hear you. Is there any way you could put your question in the chat feature? Your microphone just seems to be going in and out.
Got it. We can move on.
Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
Okay. Can you all see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
All right, so construction update for the facilities plan. Over at Proviso East Stadium, we are going up with the walls. The plumbing rough at the stadium is in progress, and you can see we're moving right along at the stadium. Proviso East for the HVAC, our piping installation is probably 95 to 98% complete. We have started to close up the walls at the perimeter classrooms, or at the perimeter, so that we can start removing the floor protection. We're painting in all of the areas and installing ceiling grid. I jumped ahead. Here's the photos of ceiling grid being installed in the next few days. We will be dropping tile in the ceiling, removing the temporary lighting, installing the permanent lighting so that we can work our way out of the classrooms and back out the corridors. Similar situation over at East. We started ceiling grid late last week, and we've already got quite a few of the classrooms completed. We will drop ceiling tile in the next week and a half as we continue to spray the rooms, finish up the ceiling, the MEP rough-in in the ceilings, drop lights in these rooms as well. Work our way out of the classrooms, and then there's quite a bit of work in the hall that we ended up having to do, and then work our way out of the hallways there. Again, painting is in progress in the classroom so that we can wrap up the work in the classrooms. As far as allowances and change orders, here's our tracking for Proviso West, 257,000 in this sequence, 2.2 allowances for West. We've only used 129,000 allowances. We've got 127,000 left for Proviso West. For Proviso East, over at the stadium, we had 378,000 in allowances for work, only used 24,000, well over 289,000 left. And then for Proviso East, the mechanical upgrade portion, 520,000 in allowances, 161,000 spent, 358,000 and some change left in East mechanical upgrades for allowances. As far as our interns, they are wrapping up their next to last week. They participated in several events with us through the summer. Our last 2 events or so, they both went to the White Sox game with us, along with one of their families joined us as well. and then a rooftop event to help them learn more about architecture, interior construction, corporate furniture, etc. Both interns participated in that. Unfortunately, one intern will have to end the program a little sooner than we like. He will be ending on Friday due to a relocation of for jobs for one of his parents. So he's leaving, but I'm headed to the site on Friday to record his end of the summer presentation, and I hope to play that for you all at one of our next meetings. The other intern that's over at East, she can do her presentation first. And that's our update.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Michelle. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to get you a plant for your office, Michelle. I mean, that's, you need some green in there.
Thank you.
All right, well then, moving along, if we are done with that, we can move on to LT's update.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so moving on to the building updates. We would like to start with Proviso East High School. In the student cafeteria on the serving lines, the operation and maintenance team have started painting in that area. We're using a platinum gray along with some accented Proviso blue. This work is about 85 to 90% complete, and we hope to have it finished up before the end of the week. Over at Proviso East, doing the Friday walkthrough, the coaches and the AD was invited out to take a site visit. There was quite a few questions. We got those questions over to Perkins and Wheel. I'm sorry, if I didn't get them to you guys, Mike, I will get them to you. I think I did not get them to you guys as of yet. We will work on getting those questions answered related to the construction and the field components within the track to make sure that the coaches are happy with what we're doing. Over at Proviso East, the boiler room front and back tubes have been punched. We also have some columns on the far left. The columns have been pulled apart and cleaned. They will be regasketed and put back together sometime shortly before school starts. Over at Proviso West, we do a weekly review, the third floor AC. That project is going really well. On the far left here, you see the end component that's going to be inside the classroom to provide the cold air. On the right side is the maintenance team, our consultant Nancy, the fantastic superintendent over there, Jennifer, and the Proviso intern, Mark. So great work over there. I'm looking forward to getting in there again this Friday with the entire team. Roof cleaning and maintenance. Over at Proviso West, the far right picture shows a snapshot of what the roof looked like before. On the far left, the guys cleaned it off. We roughly removed about 480 pounds of debris from that structure. And we are moving forward to clean the rest of the roofs over at Proviso West because it is causing major water infiltration in some of the classrooms and corridors. This picture to the far left, it was noticed last Friday during our walkthrough with Gilbane and Perkins and Wheel that this drain here that supplies a main throat to drain the roofs was cracked. So we wanted to get this repaired because it's really close to the cooling towers. We're hoping to get that number under the estimated value of about $12,000. I think it came in about $3,000. We should get that change order back no later than Monday of next week. The picture in the middle here is supporting documentation related to removing the old warming systems in the kitchen over at Proviso West. This was requested by our new Walker Service Group. We want to make sure that we supported them in a way to get them the proper infrastructure. All the end components have been ordered, and we will be wiring everything in once they get landed. Over at the Math and Science Academy, there's been quite a bit of movement here. We've been replacing some cabinetry in a few offices on the lower along with countertops. And same thing here on the right side, upper cabinets as well for storage in those spaces. Moving on to the boiler room at Proviso Math and Science Academy. There was 4 tubes that need to be replaced. Proviso collaborated with Nolan Boiler to get this work done. These boilers are roughly 20 years old, 17 years old, so we do have to make sure we maintain them. It is typical to have a few tubes to go bad after winter, so this work was manageable by the district staff and Nolan Boiler. No further work is needed in the boiler room at the Math and Science Academy. Over at the Math and Science Academy, we wanted to infill some dirt near the marquee sign. We actually pulled weeds out there, we weed treated out there, and also on the far left, you'll notice this area here, K5 did some construction for the state, and we went out there and we repaired the area, added seed, some starting fertilizer, and some soil. Outside of that, is there any questions related to the updates? Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, LT. Any other things to discuss before we head out? All right, our next meeting is going to be on September 7th. Because of scheduling of the Board of Education meetings, we don't have any facility committee meeting in August. So we'll see everyone back on September 7th. And in the meantime, everybody have a great start to the school year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Earl.